Grief parted, old vows buried by the storm. On the night of our 8th anniversary, Robert Miller slept with his secretary. Afterward, his eyes were red as he explained to me, "Sarah, I was set up. I've already fired her." To prove his innocence, he held a knife to his stomach and harmed himself. I was forced to forgive him. It wasn't until 2 years later, when the young woman, Chloe Thompson, sat across from me in a coffee shop, throwing private photos, one after another, in my face. That Thanksgiving, he lied about being on a business trip, didn't he? Actually, he came to spend the holiday with me and our child. And on your birthday, did he say the company had a crisis and he couldn't get back? That night, after our candlelight dinner, we went to a couples-themed suite. Oh, and another thing. On your 10th anniversary, he went to the hot springs with me. We used up 2 whole boxes of condoms. Do you really think he still loves you? Wake up. He's obsessed with my body. Our child is almost a year old. I dug my fingernails into my palms. It turned out he not only cheated on me but also allowed her to have the child. I couldn't listen anymore. I told him I wanted a divorce. But my husband's eyes were red. "Sarah, we don't divorce. Only death do us part. As long as we don't divorce, I can bring Chloe Thompson's son back for you to raise. You're a dink anyway, isn't it easy motherhood for you?" I scoffed. "Not only did you cheat on me and humiliate me, but you want me to raise your child for you?" I turned and called David, my brother overseas, the mercenary. "David, help me get a fake identity. Something to stage my death. Once a cheater, always a cheater. I need to disappear from his world completely." On the other end of the line, David was silent for 3 seconds. Then he replied, "Don't worry. Leave it to me. That Robert Miller character, for hurting my sister, I'll teach him a lesson he'll never forget." David was a former mercenary, unbound by borders. Even if he killed someone, no country could touch him. Realizing what he intended, I froze, then quickly stopped him. "David, he's not worth dirtying your hands over. Just arrange the fake identity for me. 7 days at most. Once I've handled everything here, I'll come find you overseas." After hanging up, I heard hesitant footsteps behind me. I turned and met Robert Miller's gaze, a look like he wanted to say something but couldn't. "Sarah, have you given it any thought?" I stared at him coldly. "Thought about what?" Robert Miller was stunned for a moment, then explained with a serious expression. "Did you forget? The suggestion I made yesterday, about bringing Chloe Thompson's son back for us to raise. The child is less than a year old, he won't recognize anyone. As long as you raise him for these first 2 years, he'll see you as his birth mother." Hearing his serious plotting, I let out a cold laugh. His scheming was too obvious. It felt like his calculations were practically shouting at me. Not only did he cheat on me and humiliate me, but he also wanted to bring their illegitimate child back to sicken me. And even expected me to raise him. What made him think I would agree? Absolutely impossible. I stated the 4 words coldly and watched Robert Miller's face drain of color, inch by inch. "Sarah." His eyes red, he grabbed my arm. "I know this is unfair to you, but it was all an accident. I never intended to betray you. After all, the child is innocent. I have to be responsible for him." Looking at Robert Miller's seemingly sincere eyes, memories from 2 years ago flooded my mind. That day was our 8th wedding anniversary. I waited for him at the restaurant we'd booked until closing time. It wasn't until 3 in the morning that I received a video from an anonymous account. I opened it and saw a drunken Robert Miller, passionately making out with a woman. I knew the woman. She was Robert Miller's newly hired secretary, Chloe Thompson. Before I could even accept the fact that he had cheated, Robert Miller called me immediately, his voice full of panic. "Sarah, I think I did something I shouldn't have. But I didn't mean to." I blacked out. I don't know how it happened. When I woke up, I saw Chloe Thompson lying naked in my arms. He looked full of regret, in agony. "Sarah, believe me. I was set up." At that moment, he seemed honest, but having already seen the video from the anonymous account first, my mind was made up. Feeling utterly defeated, I asked for a divorce. But unexpectedly, Robert Miller tightly gripped a knife and unbuckled his belt in front of me. His eyes were red as he said, "Sarah, I never intended to betray you. If you don't believe me, I'll prove my innocence right now." He faced it like he was going to die, cutting himself in the stomach with the knife. The sharp tip broke the skin. I was shocked and panicked, quickly stopping him. "I forgive you. I believe you." That day we held each other, crying heartbrokenly. Robert Miller swore and promised me that he had fired Chloe Thompson and handled everything. He assured me there would be no repercussions. But only 2 years later, they took all those intimate photos and ended up with a child. If he still claimed it was an accident, even an idiot wouldn't believe him. I gave a self-mocking laugh and coldly pushed away Robert Miller, who was blocking my way. "I won't stand in the way of you taking responsibility for that child. That's your freedom and right. So, we're getting divorced." Perhaps I seemed too calm, because Robert Miller was stunned for a long time, thinking I was joking. He told me to think it over and not say things out of anger. "Sarah, we've been together for 10 years. We've been so loving all these years, never even argued about anything. Everyone in our circle knows that." But when I put the divorce papers in front of him and discussed the terms of the agreement point by point, his eyes instantly turned red. "No, I won't divorce." Robert Miller held me tightly. "Did you forget? I told you when we got married, we don't divorce. Only death will part us." My heart felt like it was being cut by knives, a dense, sharp pain, but I forced myself to keep a calm expression. "Sarah, you forgave me 2 years ago. I know we have deep affection for each other. We can definitely get through this crisis." Robert Miller looked completely confident. I scoffed. He still thought I was only asking for a divorce because I'd discovered the child's existence. Robert Miller didn't know that Chloe Thompson had secretly contacted me and arranged to meet at a coffee shop, and threw those intimate photos in my face. Now, I coldly took those photos from my bag and laid them out in front of Robert Miller, one by one. With each photo I laid out, his face paled a bit more. "Robert Miller, do you still think the child is the only issue?" His face showed disbelief, and even his voice was tinged with a tremble. "Sarah, where did you get these pictures? Was it Chloe Thompson? She must be unhappy with the money, so she deliberately photoshopped all these pictures to extort me. She's trying to drive a wedge between us." I looked calmly at Robert Miller in front of me. He argued his point fiercely, acting like he was the one who had been wronged, frantically defending himself. But I wasn't stupid. After Chloe Thompson confessed everything to me, I hired a private investigator. All of Robert Miller's travel records for his business trips over the past 2 years, and the hotels he checked into. They matched Chloe Thompson's story exactly. When we got married 10 years ago, I told him, "I could tolerate sickness, old age, and death. I could tolerate everything, but I could never tolerate deceit. Anything could be discussed with me, but nothing should be hidden from me." I might not have minded them sleep together. But I couldn't accept Robert Miller lying about business trips again and again, only to go and mess around with Chloe Thompson in hotels. I couldn't accept him telling me he lived a simple, pure life, while being obsessed with another woman's body, calling her my little vixen. And I certainly couldn't accept him having a child with another woman behind my back, and even letting her keep the baby without telling me. Enough, Robert Miller. I was tired of his hypocrisy and pretense. I had it investigated. The child's birthday doesn't line up with that night at all. I stared coldly into his eyes and said each word clearly. "Even if those photos were faked, ask yourself, was it really just that one night with Chloe Thompson?" Caught out, Robert Miller's face turned red then white. He stood there, stunned, opening his mouth but no sound came out. And I turned and walked away without looking back, leaving only one sentence before I left. "Sign it. Sign the divorce papers and give them to my lawyer. I don't want to see you again." Robert Miller refused to sign for 3 days. He even used the excuse of pretending to be sick to trick me into going to the Miller family estate for a family dinner. When I arrived, the whole Miller family was there. My eyes fell on Chloe Thompson, sitting in the corner. I didn't say a word. She looked a little uneasy. Seeing me, her voice was tinged with a sob. Sarah, I know I shouldn't be here, but Mr. and Mrs. Miller said Ethan is the Miller family's eldest grandson, and he had to be at the family dinner today. Ethan was their child. Mrs. Miller, Robert's mother, cut her off. Ethan is my big, healthy grandson. Who can stop him from coming to a family dinner? She finished speaking and gave me a sarcastic look. What's more, this family dinner was specifically to welcome the child into the family. Robert Miller's eyes were fixed on me nervously the entire time. He pulled out my chair for me, served me food, trying to be agreeable. Sarah, Mom and Dad are getting older, they really want to see their grandson. Don't blame me for taking it upon myself, but whether he can be brought into the family needs your approval. Mr. and Mrs. Miller had always disliked how Robert doted on me and tried to please me. They looked displeased. Robert, don't forget who runs the Miller family. Sarah is your wife, but in any family, the husband comes first, isn't that right? I didn't touch my chopsticks, listening in silence. For 10 years of marriage, I insisted on being Dink, and Robert Miller respected my wishes. We never had children. But his parents couldn't understand. They had always disliked me and even believed gossip behind my back, saying that I'd been ruined by other men and couldn't have children. Before, they only dared to grumble behind my back. Now, seeing Robert Miller had a backup plan and their precious grandson was born, they thought even less of me. Mrs. Miller looked me over critically. Sarah, you've been married into the Miller family for 10 years now. We don't blame you for not having children, but you should at least agree to let our precious Ethan be formally welcomed into the family, shouldn't you? I put down my glass, smiled, and nodded. Agree? Since the child is Robert Miller's, he should certainly be brought home. Everyone's faces lit up instantly. Even Robert Miller put down his chopsticks, completely surprised. Sarah, you've finally come around? I looked at him, surprised. Come around to what? Isn't this a Miller family matter? Chloe Thompson deserves credit for giving birth to the child, and she's living outside the family with no proper status. You should really marry her and bring her home. As for me, I smiled without changing my expression. I'd be glad to step aside for her. The room fell silent. The whole family exchanged awkward glances. The atmosphere turned strange again. Robert Miller's face NTLY went white. He grabbed my hand in a rush. Sarah, what nonsense are you talking? I've told you, we can't get divorced. Even if Chloe Thompson had my child, I would never marry her. I instinctively looked at Chloe Thompson. She lowered her head in a show of grievance, but a flicker of almost imperceptible jealousy flashed in her eyes. Yes, he wouldn't divorce me, but he would go to Chloe Thompson's bed behind my back again and again. He would use working late as an excuse, time after time, to be with Chloe Thompson and their child, like a family. Sarah Sue, saying things about divorce at a nice family dinner. How unpleasant. Mrs. Miller rolled her eyes at me, looking displeased. By Miller family custom, we wouldn't even have needed to notify you today. It's only because my son respects you. This child, Ethan, is here now, and you don't have to suffer the pain of carrying and giving birth for 10 months. As Mrs. Miller, you should take responsibility. Mr. Miller chimed in. Exactly. If you don't raise him, our precious grandson will be a bastard. How would that look for the Miller family bloodline, left out there like that? People would laugh at us. The meal was a tense affair, everyone lost in their own thoughts, and it tasted like ash. I glanced at the calendar. 3 days left. Whether Robert Miller agreed to the divorce or not, everything would be over soon. After dinner, Chloe Thompson came into my room, holding the child. Sarah, please don't argue with Robert anymore. He loves you. Even though I had his child, he never thought about marrying me. Seeing I had no desire to hold the child, Chloe Thompson gave a bitter smile and put him in my arms. I've decided to go overseas. I'll leave the child with you. From now on, you'll be Ethan's mother. I froze, looking up in shock. You're leaving? Yes. Chloe Thompson's eyes were slightly red. This child and I are simply not meant to be together. She patiently showed me how to hold the child and what positions to use to lull him to sleep, but the moment I took him, the child in my arms started crying uncontrollably. I frowned and found a needle in the back of his head. Chloe Thompson's face went white. She screamed, "Sarah, I know Ethan isn't your child and you don't feel attached, but you can't be this cruel to harm him. If you have a grievance, take it out on me. How could you stab a child less than 2 years old with such a thick needle?" The loud commotion startled the Miller family outside. They rushed in and saw me holding the child, with a blood-stained needle in my hand, looking bewildered and helpless. And Chloe Thompson tearfully knelt down in front of me. "If you're unhappy about something, take it out on me. Stab me with the needle. Don't hurt my son." Mr. and Mrs. Miller, looking heartbroken, helped Chloe Thompson up. Seeing the blood-stained needle in my hand, they were terrified, their faces white. They glared at me with hatred. "What terrible sin is this? Sarah Sue, you can't have children yourself, and now you're trying to murder our only precious grandson." Robert Miller snatched the child from my arms, afraid I would harm him further. "Quick! Call the private doctor." I stared blankly at the needle in my hand. It took a moment for me to realize I'd been set up. "I didn't. Robert Miller, this needle wasn't from me." Robert Miller's face turned cold. "Sarah Sue, I thought you were straightforward and honest, that your refusal was genuine. I wasted these past few days trying to convince you. I never expected you could be so malicious, trying to kill my son." A sense of helplessness threatened to overwhelm me. "I really didn't." "You didn't?" Robert Miller's face was grim and cold as he stepped closer to me. "That thick needle was stuck in the back of Ethan's head. From start to finish today, besides Chloe Thompson, you were the only one who held him. Are you still denying it? You say it wasn't you? Do you expect me to believe that Chloe Thompson, his own mother, would try to harm her son?" Robert Miller's eyes were full of disappointment. "Since you can't tolerate this child, why don't you go to Pine Crest Resort to get away for a few days? I was taken away by bodyguards that very day." Robert Miller said I could come back when I came to my senses. A heavy rain started the day I left. Robert Miller paced back and forth in the house. Suddenly, he gritted his teeth, grabbed an umbrella, and rushed out into the rain. "Sarah, take the umbrella. Take care of yourself while I'm not here. I'll be waiting for the day you come back having changed your mind." Looking at the familiar deep affection in his eyes, I smiled and didn't take it. "We'll see." I turned and walked away without hesitation. Robert Miller didn't know that I would never be coming back. The day after arriving at Pine Crest Resort, I received another video from that mysterious account from 2 years ago. The background was a sofa in a private booth at a bar, with a noisy background. Robert Miller and Chloe Thompson's conversation came through clearly. "Did you use protection?" Chloe Thompson asked him with a giggle. "Not using it again? Aren't you afraid I'll get pregnant and your wife will leave you?" Robert Miller snapped out of his focus and gave a low, cold laugh. "If you get pregnant, have the baby. Sarah insists on being Dink. We've been married for 8 years and don't have kids. Mom and Dad are pressuring me hard. How can I just stand by and let them have no heir? I can't divorce her, so you'll have to be the one to have this child." Robert Miller, smoking a cigarette afterward, spoke casually. "When the time is right, I'll just come up with some excuse and say the child was an accident." I was struck dumb, my entire body chilling as if plunged into an ice bath, trembling uncontrollably. That night 2 years ago, Robert Miller kept saying he was set up by a rival. That it was an accident. It turns out he planned it all himself. I couldn't stop sneering. I gazed calmly out the window. Pine Crest Resort was located on the mountainside behind the resort. It was Miller family property, already deserted. The rain was heavy, as if washing the world clean. I hesitated for a long time, then took an umbrella and walked down the mountain. "Robert Miller, I hope you have many descendants. May we never meet again. Robert, look how much the child looks like you. He's practically a spitting image of you when you were little." Mrs. Miller held Ethan, beaming. The doctor had just checked. The needle didn't go in deep, thankfully, it was just a superficial wound. Looking at the harmonious scene, Robert Miller seemed distracted, even feeling an inexplicable irritation. He looked down at his phone. It was already 8 o'clock. He wondered if Sarah Sue had arrived at Pinecrest Resort. With such heavy rain tonight, would she be scared all alone? Just as he was about to call his assistant, before he even dialed the number, the assistant's call came through. Mr. Miller, something's happened. The rain was too heavy. There's been a landslide at Pinecrest Resort, and Mrs. Miller is missing. Robert Miller froze. He jumped up angrily, forcing the words through gritted teeth. Missing? What do you mean, missing? His knuckles were white. The antique teacup in his hand shattered. The broken pieces cut his hand. Blood streamed down between his fingers, but he seemed not to feel it. She might have been swept away by the flood, or perhaps buried under the building debris. Mr. Miller, please accept my condolences. The assistant sensed his rage. His voice was trembling. No, that's impossible. Send people to search immediately. Find Sarah and let me know as soon as possible. He hung up, his face pale, grabbed his jacket, and rushed out. Chloe Thompson, who had been hiding nearby listening, was secretly gloating when he heard Sarah Sue was dead. She quickly hugged Robert Miller from behind. Robert, where are you going? She deliberately pinched her son. Ethan burst into tears. See? Our son doesn't want you to leave. It's raining so heavily outside, stay and spend time with Ethan. No, I can't. Robert Miller pushed her away forcefully. Leave Ethan with Mom and Dad. I have to find Sarah. His face was full of remorse as he hit his head. I really regret sending her to Pinecrest Resort in anger. She's never been away from me all these years. How can she manage alone? Whether she's missing or... I have to find her myself. Before Robert Miller could leave the house, Mr. and Mrs. Miller blocked him. Robert, are you crazy? It's a massive downpour right now. Before you could even rescue her, you'd be lost yourself. Wait until the rain stops, then send a rescue team. Robert Miller looked out the window, filled with worry. Besides the heavy rain, there was strong wind, making the trees by the road sway precariously. He sat restlessly in the living room, waiting through the night. Finally, the rain stopped. He rushed to Pinecrest Resort and saw the buildings destroyed by the storm. Robert Miller's face was ashen. He ran over like a madman and started digging. Sarah, Sarah. His eyes were red, his voice trembling as he called my name. His hands were soon raw and bloody from digging. The assistant and the police officers at the rescue site tried to stop him. Mr. Miller, please don't be reckless. Even if you want to rescue someone, you can't do it so haphazardly. You'll only end up hurting yourself. Robert Miller completely lost control of his emotions. Don't stop me. He forcefully pushed them away and rushed back to dig. He said even if I was dead, he had to see my body with his own eyes. But when they finally dug down, they found the gold locket with an engraving under the rocks, broken in two. Robert Miller's face was ashen white, like Eth. With trembling hands, he picked up the two halves of the gold locket. His eyes instantly turned red. Sarah, I'm sorry. It's my fault this happened to you. I just wanted to punish you a little. I never thought it would kill you, Sarah. Don't leave me. Robert Miller collapsed on the spot, even threatening to jump into the river to join me. The rescue team members were quick and pulled him out. But Robert Miller fainted on the spot. When he woke up, the police came to him with a death certificate. Mr. Miller, please accept our condolences. After the rescue team's search, we are certain that your wife, Sarah Sue, is deceased. No, she's not dead. How could she be dead? Robert Miller went mad on the spot. She promised me she would die after me. Robert Miller was lying in the hospital room, still hooked up to N4. He ripped out the needle and struggled to get out and find me, not even wearing shoes. Chloe Thompson's eyes were red from crying. With a determined look, she hugged him. Robert Miller, accept it. Sarah Sue is dead. Mrs. Miller saw him acting like a mad dog, insisting on looking for me. Furious, she slapped him across the face. Robert Miller, can't you act like a man? Life and death are natural. Sarah Sue is dead, it was her fate to have a short life. Since it's happened, you can't change it, you just have to accept it. Those words hit him like a hammer. He crouched down in despair, burying his face in his hands and sobbing. I didn't want this. I didn't want Sarah to die. I'm sorry. Only Chloe Thompson stood by, a flicker of imperceptible triumph on her lips. When I woke up in the hospital, I was overseas. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw a stunningly handsome man sitting beside me, smiling and staring right at me. You're awake. You slept for 3 whole days. He helped me lean back against the pillows and handed me a glass of water. Your lips are all cracked. Have some water. I froze. It took me a while to remember what had happened the past couple of days. I hadn't died in that landslide at all. It was a fake death plan David had specially arranged for me. When he heard Robert Miller had sent me to Pinecrest Resort, David saw the weather forecast predicted a heavy rain and decided to use it to our advantage. Using the landslide as a cover, he helped me successfully stage my death. To make me disappear from Robert Miller's world forever. So he could never find me again. That day, I deliberately walked down the mountain to make them believe I was truly caught in the landslide. In that landslide, I was almost swept away by the flood. Luckily, David had arranged for his good friend, Liam O'Connell, also a former mercenary, to pick me up. The exceptionally charming handsome man sitting in front of me. Liam O'Connell pulled me out in time, took me to a hotel, and after the rain stopped, we boarded a helicopter and flew all the way to Italy. After I fainted that day, I developed a high fever that didn't break for 3 whole days. It nearly took my life. David joked, "You're being reborn. This serious illness is meant to kill off your old self and help you say goodbye to the past completely." But I really didn't want to take medicine. David knew I was attracted to good looks, so he sent his handsome friend to give me my medicine. "Why are you looking at me like that?" He noticed me looking at him and smiled back. I froze. How come David never told me he had such a handsome friend like you? Liam O'Connell's smile widened. Your brother never told me you had a mouth like honey. He said you were sharp-tongued. I scoffed. Depends on who I'm talking to. With David Sue, I definitely have to be a little sharp-tongued. But for a handsome man like you, of course I have to be gentle. Liam O'Connell was amused. I never expected you'd be even more interesting than before. I froze. You've met me before? Liam O'Connell gave a half SM. I'll and flicked my forehead. Little ungrateful thing, you really forgot about me. Liam O'Connell suddenly rolled up his sleeve and showed me the bracelet on his wrist. I chuckled. A grown man like you, wearing something so childish. It looked like a string of amethyst beads, clearly the kind of jewelry a teenage girl would wear. Liam O'Connell looked at me with a serious expression. Think about it again. Does it feel familiar? As I looked, my smile faded. Suddenly, an old memory surfaced from the depths of my mind. When I was 15, David brought one of his mercenary friends home. I thought the guy was really handsome, but David wouldn't let me date. So I snuck into his room and forced the bracelet onto his wrist. I even said it was a token of our engagement, that I was claiming him first and he would marry me someday. It was just a joke. I thought he would have forgotten about it. I never expected that after more than 10 years, he would still keep that childish bracelet. I looked up at him in shock. You're not kidding, right? You haven't gotten married all these years? Of course not. He's been waiting for you to get divorced all these years. David happened to walk over, leaning against the doorway, looking at us with a knowing smile. For his sake, considering how devoted he is, why don't you consider my friend? Oh no. Looks like my teasing actually meant something. But thankfully, I was free again. Thanks to David, I got a new identity in Italy. Ready to start a new life overseas. Liam O'Connell took great care of me. Every now and then he would bring me my favorite fruits and snacks, and even called me Little Glutton. I offered to transfer him money, but Liam O'Connell absolutely refused. I sighed. A girl is trying to find an excuse to get your contact info, and you don't even get it? Liam O'Connell couldn't stop laughing, but he kept staring at me with that smile. Actually, you already have my contact information. I didn't understand. When did I add it? Which one is you? Then, I saw him type a few words on his phone screen. Soon after, that mysterious account sent me a message. I froze. It turned out the one who had been helping me all along was Liam O'Connell. I remembered receiving the video from that mysterious account while I was at Pinecrest Resort. That video was the one that told me the truth. Robert Miller wasn't set up back then at all, and didn't just end up having relations with his secretary, Chloe Thompson. They had been involved for a long time. That's why there were so many dates. He lied about going on business trips, but he was actually going to hotels to experience couples-themed suites with Chloe Thompson. On the surface, he doted on me completely, but he complained that I was frigid and insisted on being dink, refusing to have children. Clearly leaving the Miller family without an heir. But Robert Miller didn't want to divorce me. From that night 2 years ago, when he called me in a panic saying he'd been set up, to today, when Chloe Thompson deliberately came to confront me, pretending the affair had just been exposed. It was all planned by them. They thought if they acted convincingly enough, they could subtly change my mindset and I would accept him bringing his illegitimate child home. But he never expected this, did he? In the end, his plan backfired. Under pressure from the Miller family, Robert Miller brought Chloe Thompson's son back to the Miller family estate to be formally welcomed into the family. But ever since he heard about my death, he hadn't even looked at his son. He refused to accept my death. He clung to my coffin in front of the memorial service, refusing to let go. That day, he sent a rescue team to search for 7 whole days. Some said my body might have been swept away by the flood. Others said I might be buried deep under the rocks, and after so many days, I couldn't possibly be alive even if I were rescued. My coffin was empty, with a few of my old clothes inside. They even issued a death certificate. Everyone said I would never come back. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, however, breathed a sigh of relief. On the surface, they comforted Robert Miller and told him to accept his loss. But behind his back, they said, it's good that Sarah Sue is dead. Now that she's gone, my son can finally bring Chloe Thompson home without worry. Our big, healthy grandson finally has parents to love him. Chloe Thompson was even more unable to contain her delight. The biggest obstacle in her path had been removed. She no longer had to be a mistress. She could finally climb the ladder and become Mrs. Miller. What's more, she had given Robert Miller a son. Given how much the elder Millers valued this child, she was sure to gain status and influence because she bore the heir. For everyone else, my existence was just an interlude. My death had no impact on any of them. Only Robert Miller grew more haggard day by day. Chloe Thompson brought a bowl of chicken noodle soup to the study, softly comforting Robert Miller. Even if Sarah were alive, she wouldn't want to see you like this. Robert, pull yourself together. Even without her, you still have me, and Ethan. Robert Miller was heartbroken and wanted only to avoid the pain of confronting death. With red eyes, he fell into her embrace. Chloe Thompson, it's all my fault. If I had just lived our lives properly back then, and not planned all this nonsense, she wouldn't have died. How could she be so unlucky to encounter such a landslide? How desperate must she have been when it happened? Robert Miller couldn't bear to imagine. But still, under Chloe Thompson's coaxing, he drank the bowl of chicken noodle soup that had been drugged. When he looked up again, he saw Chloe Thompson in front of him, but he saw me. Sarah, is it really you? He excitedly hugged Chloe Thompson, kissing her wildly right in front of the memorial service. Chloe Thompson clenched her fists tightly, her face pale, but she still pretended to respond as me. She knew if she just endured a little longer, everything would be complete. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, who were eavesdropping in the corner, nodded in satisfaction. I told you this medicine would work. Robert will be sad for a few days, but it won't take long for him to forget that dead Sarah Sue. As long as he dutifully marries Chloe Thompson and brings her home, our Miller family will be complete again. When Robert Miller woke up, he realized he and Chloe Thompson had actually slept together in front of my memorial service. His eyes turned red with regret. I'm sorry, Sarah. I didn't mean to make you angry. I don't know how I fell asleep yesterday. I just remember seeing you. Chloe Thompson deliberately provoked him. Robert, will you marry me? Let me take care of you in Sarah's place. I'll be by your side with our son from now on. Robert Miller's face instantly turned cold. He frowned. Sarah has only just passed away. How can you say such things? I promised her she would be my only wife in this life. Even if another 5 or 10 years pass, I will never marry you. Robert Miller said this coldly and turned to leave. Chloe Thompson's face was as white as paper. Chloe Thompson started threatening to jump. She stood on the rooftop, trembling like a frail bird. Robert Miller was badly frightened when he heard the news and rushed over. Chloe Thompson, don't do anything rash. Come down. No. Chloe Thompson cried and laughed at him. Robert Miller, I gave you my youth. I've been with you for 2 years without a proper title, and I've given birth to your child. Before, you said you wouldn't marry me because you had a wife, and I understood. But now you're single again, why won't you marry me? If you don't agree, I'll jump from here today. Robert Miller was never afraid of threats. He hated being threatened. At that moment, looking at the desperate Chloe Thompson, his face pale, it was as if he saw Sarah Sue who had died in the landslide. He thought about whether she had been that desperate, that helpless. Robert Miller closed his eyes. After a long silence, he finally gave in and agreed. All right, I'll marry you. Wedding preparations were in full swing. Chloe Thompson was incredibly excited, thinking about how she would soon marry into a wealthy family and become a rich socialite. She had worked towards this for years and wouldn't allow anyone or anything to ruin her wedding. But she never expected. On the wedding day, something still went wrong. Robert Miller had just put on his groom's suit and was about to get into the car to go to the wedding venue, when he unexpectedly received an anonymous text message. Sarah Sue is not dead. If you want to know where she is, come to Warehouse 5. Robert Miller froze. Before the best man could react, Robert Miller turned and ran, flagging down a random taxi on the side of the road. To Warehouse 5. All the way there, Robert Miller sweated nervously. He had never imagined that Sarah Sue might still be alive. He asked himself countless times in his heart, if Sarah Sue was alive, what would he do? He told himself that no matter the cost, he would atone, make amends, and bring Sarah home safely. With trembling hands, he sent a message to the anonymous person. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Where is Sarah? Who are you? I strongly advise you not to harm her. The reply came back, you'll know when you get here. Robert Miller got out of the taxi and rushed into the warehouse impatiently. He wanted to see me as soon as possible. But he wasn't cautious at all. As soon as he rushed into the warehouse, he was grabbed by a group of mercenaries, had a sack over his head, and was beaten severely. David Sue, my brother, walked out with a lazy expression. What an idiot! He glanced at me sideways. Sarah, I really don't understand your taste. How did you ever fall for a guy like this? I was speechless. Didn't want to deal with him. Robert Miller had no idea that David was always one to hold a grudge and seek revenge. He didn't ask about my experiences back home, but he quietly sent people to find out himself. What's more, his good friend Liam O'Connell knew everything about Robert Miller's affair with his secretary. David planned it all out, deciding to ruin Robert Miller's wedding day. He deliberately used my whereabouts as bait to lure Robert Miller here, only for him to be brutally beaten. When they were done beating him, seeing several puddles of blood on the ground, I frowned and spoke up. David, that's enough. Don't kill him. Hearing my voice, the person inside the sack froze. It took him a couple of seconds to react. Suddenly, he pushed everyone away, his face covered in blood, yet he stared at me with immense surprise and joy. Sarah, you're really not dead? That's wonderful. He was beaten black and blue, several bones in his legs were broken. He limped closer with difficulty, trying to reach out and touch me. But David kicked him away. "Don't touch my sister with your filthy hands," David scoffed. "Robert Miller, when you begged me to let you marry my sister, you swore that if you ever betrayed her, you would be struck by lightning. Open your eyes and look at yourself. What have you been doing these past 2 years?" David threw the intimate photos at him forcefully. They fell like snowflakes, one after another. Robert Miller was covered in wounds on his face and body, blood streaming down. I couldn't see his expression clearly, but I could feel his extreme remorse. Even his shoulders were trembling. "Sarah, do you know everything?" "I'm sorry. I admit I did wrong. I shouldn't have betrayed you. I shouldn't have planned all of this. Just kill me. As long as you can forgive me." He stumbled towards me, trying to grab my leg. I coldly stepped back, avoiding his touch. "It's too late. You not only betrayed me, but you also trampled on my love and did so many disgusting things. And you still want my forgiveness? Robert Miller, I wish I had never met you." They say the Miller family searched everywhere for him like crazy that day. Rumors at the wedding said Robert Miller didn't want to marry Chloe Thompson and ran away. Chloe Thompson was furious and smashed the wedding venue to pieces. But no one knew. David had his men tie Robert Miller up on the mountaintop, exposed to the storm's fury. It happened to be another stormy night. If you're struck by lightning and die, then that's your fate. If you're lucky enough to survive, then the score between you and my sister will be settled. She never wants to see you again. Don't ever try to find her. I stood at the foot of the mountain and watched for a long time until the heavy rain started. Liam O'Connell came to find me with an umbrella. "Little silly, you don't know enough to go home in this heavy rain? Are you craving hot pot again?" He followed my gaze towards Robert Miller, but his expression was nonchalant. I looked up at him, smiling. "Will you take me to eat hot pot then?" "Okay. Hot pot is even better in the rain." As he spoke, he took my hand, lacing his fingers through mine. After everything was handled, I went to Italy with David and Liam O'Connell. I heard Robert Miller was indeed struck by lightning that night. He didn't die, but he became paralyzed. When the Miller family found him, he was almost a vegetable, unconscious. From then on, the Miller family's luck turned bad. The company's stock price kept falling. Their precious grandson Ethan was diagnosed with intellectual disability, and Robert Miller lay half dead in bed all day. Mr. and Mrs. Miller's hair turned white with worry overnight. They had nowhere to vent their frustration, so they blamed Chloe Thompson, calling her bad luck. Hay beat and cursed her every day. It was pitiful that Chloe Thompson still desperately wanted to get into the wealthy family, refusing to leave no matter how much she was abused. Every day she would curse at my black and white photo, saying it was all my fault, that she wouldn't be so miserable if it weren't for me. But I had no idea about any of this happening back home. Because Liam O'Connell proposed to me, and we were about to start a new life.